On behalf of the Cultural Council and the 45 arts organizations and supporters of the arts that comprise the Cultural Council Associates, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the Rio Theatre for tonight's presentation of the 16th Annual Gail Rich Awards.
Mention you're from Santa Cruz anywhere in the world, and people's eyes light up with recognition. Santa Cruz is a beacon to many thanks to our incredible environment and recreational opportunities, our unique artistic and creative culture, and our capacity to incubate talent.
Writer Wallace Baine and photographer Shmuel Thaler recognized 16 years ago that the Santa Cruz arts community is defined by a constellation of stellar individuals: artists, donors, teachers, community builders, entrepreneurs, and street performers who enrich people's lives through their dedication to the arts. The tradition that Wallace and Shmuel started, in partnership with the Santa Cruz Sentinel and the Cultural Council, continues with tonight's program, an annual award ceremony recognizing people who do great things within the Santa Cruz artistic biosphere.
Before we get started, please suppress these things or any other noisy contraptions you may have with you, and kindly note the location of the exits at the back and the sides of the auditorium. We will have a short reception down here in front of the stage after this evening's program, and for those of you whose preference runs toward beer, wine, or hot food, the backstage lounge is opened, and it's located behind the Rio Theatre. Please do frequent that place. It's delicious.
To set the stage for tonight's presentation, we are very happy to introduce the Executive Director of the Cultural Council of Santa Cruz County. Please join us in welcoming Michelle Williams.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming to celebrate this year's deserving winners of the Gail Rich Awards. We at the Cultural Council are proud to be in our 16th year of supporting this event with all of our generous and creative partners. The Cultural Council is a 33-year-old organization dedicated to supporting and serving artists and arts organizations in Santa Cruz County. We run open studios, the Spectra and Mariposa's arts education programs, coordinate exhibitions such as the County Government Center, and provide direct funding to artists and arts organizations all across the county. Our purpose is to be of service to the arts community throughout the county and to help local arts thrive. So many people in this community have been instrumental to our work, and I'd actually like to take this moment to acknowledge all current and former volunteer board members of the Cultural Council. There's many of you, so if everyone who has been on the board could stand. Thank you. In a 33-year-old organization that used to have 50-plus board members, you can't throw a stone and not hit a board member in this community, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And also, speaking of supporting the arts, I am delighted to let you know that previous Gail Rich awardee David Kahn has set up an endowment to support the Gail Rich Awards. He has given a lead gift, which will generate support for this event for years to come. So, yeah, it's really fantastic. Thank you, David. And I invite anyone who's interested in joining David in that gift to talk to anybody at the Cultural Council. And now, to get the 2012 Gail Rich Awards underway, it is my privilege to introduce our Master of Ceremonies for the evening. Wallace Baine is a fixture in our arts community as our chronicler and storyteller. He has been writing about Santa Cruz arts for many, many years and is a tireless advocate for local arts. We are fortunate to have such an inspired writer penning our stories. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Santa Cruz Sentinel arts writer Wallace Baine.
Thank you, Michelle. Many years, really? Did you have to do that? Many years, that's all. Thank you and welcome to the Gail Rich Awards, 16 years going strong. I remember many years ago at the Sentinel, we had an editor who would stand in the middle of the newsroom and amidst all the grouchy and angry reporters and editors, and he'd look around and say, "There's a lot of love in this room." Of course, he was being facetious. Newspaper people are incapable of love, but But I can say here tonight, in all earnestness and all sincerity, that there is a lot of love in this room. Am I right? Now, I know you have all that love in you, and I don't want you to let it sort of dissipate in the atmosphere. We need to focus it and aim it at 6 individuals tonight that we are honoring. The great drummer and teacher and workshop leader, Mr. Jim Greiner. The wonderful artist and a pillar of the South County visual arts scene, Miss Judy Stabile. The wonderfully creative musician and visionary Rhan Wilson is here tonight. The wonderful writer and accomplished novelist and teacher, Elizabeth McKenzie. You know him by his art. The great illustrator, Mr. Steve Hosmer, is here tonight. And, of course, the longtime musical director of the Santa Cruz County Symphony, Mr. John Larry Granger, as well. I wanted to single out Larry just a little bit before we get started because he is retiring after 21 years. And so we just barely got him into this. You know, if we had waited one more year, we wouldn't have been able to get him. So I'm really, really excited he's here tonight. And of course, with Larry, you know, it's like he was involved in so many things in his tenure here. A couple of youth symphonies, the Nutcracker Symphony, that on the drive over, I thought, I was just thinking how possibly he could get that done. And it occurred to me, this guy's been keeping it a secret from us. He's twins. There's 2 of them. That's why he calls himself John Larry Granger. So tonight, my hunch is right, we're going to meet John and Larry. Just a few words about the woman for whom these awards are named. A lot of you, I know, come up to me all the time and say, I knew Gail, I talked with Gail. Just by your applause, people who knew Gail Rich. She so wonderfully exemplifies what we're trying to accomplish with this. She was a volunteer in the community. She worked so hard with her record company, with her partner, Neil Hellman, Gord Music, and she was very instrumental in the Cultural Council of Santa Cruz County. She worked with me at the Santa Cruz Sentinel, and of course she was a wonderful radio programmer at KUSP. And it's just so gratifying that those 3 entities, the Cultural Council, the Sentinel, and KUSP, have become such a strong supporter of this event, and I'm sure Gail would be pleased at that. I'm almost also very sure that she would be very embarrassed by all this commotion. I think she lived every day like it was. She lived it like a day of gratitude, and but she also had kind of an acerbic side. Also, she was a lot of fun to hang around with. She passed away the year we kind of came up with this idea, so we thought, let's name it after her, and we haven't regretted that one moment since. So, Gail, here's to you. The big news last November, of course, it has been mentioned that we finished number 5 in a survey by the Atlantic Magazine for the most artistic cities in America. Now, that's a big deal because that's behind New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. I mean, those are the big boys, right? And so that's something to be proud of. It's not, usually when you finish number 5, it's not something you have a parade on, but considering who we're up against. And so there are many things that Santa Cruz is in the top 5 in the U.S. We are top 5 per capita of smug bicyclists on recumbent bikes. We are number 3 in the country in dolphin-safe taquerias. We lead the country in Occupy Wall Street protesters that don't bother to get out of the car. We are in the top 5 of people who have creative strategies to avoid signing petitions. And of course, we are number 1 in people per capita who claim not to care what East Coast magazines say about us anyway. All right, enough of that silliness. Let's get on with our program, shall we? We are going to start and meet the man I mentioned a bit earlier, Mr. John Larry Granger. Larry came to the Santa Cruz Symphony 21 years ago. He became the executive director and the musical director there. And he also took on many other responsibilities. He was the director of the Youth Symphony of Monterey County, the Youth Symphony of Santa Cruz County. He put together an entire new symphony for the Santa Cruz Ballet Theatre for the Nutcracker every year. He has done so many great collaborations with other musicians, from Cheryl Anderson, who he worked with for so many years, to Zun Zun, to the White Album Ensemble. And I think one of the really great things that Larry has brought to this community is building a strong classical music community in South County and bridging Santa Cruz and Watsonville by establishing the Mello Center as a performance space for the symphony. So it's been a great career for him. We're so very grateful. And so let me introduce, to speak a little about Larry, his introducer tonight, my good friend, Miss Nancy Myberg.
I'm delighted to be here tonight. I met Larry Granger 21 years ago when he came to Santa Cruz to audition for the position of music director, conductor of the Santa Cruz County Symphony. I worked for the symphony at that time, and we had several conductors in a very short period of time, which is terrible and detrimental to the building of an orchestra. So when Larry came and was selected for the position, it was marvelous. He was selected for his repertoire, and he had an amazing artistic vision, and he plunged forward with excellence and never looked back to this day. Here are 10 things you may not know about Larry Granger. Larry was a professional oboe player in Southern California. An instrument, he said, was the most beautiful and the closest to the human voice. Larry was a junior high school teacher. I'm sure this most demanding of jobs stood him in good stead when conducting the orchestra and attending board meetings. Larry had his own American Idol moment. While a young teacher in Southern California, Larry auditioned for Herbert Blumstadt, the music director and conductor of the San Francisco Symphony. Based on his audition, not his resume, Larry was selected to travel with Blumstadt on a tour of Europe to learn how to conduct. Larry memorized all the music he performed, a daunting task. Larry gave over 100 lectures on music to the Santa Cruz Symphony League, performed over 300 performances, 600 rehearsals. Larry was also music director, conductor of the Santa Cruz and Monterey Youth Symphonies, and every year had them perform together. Larry's dedication to the orchestra's artistic quality paid off when in 1996, the prestigious California Arts Council compared the Santa Cruz Symphony to the rest of the state and gave us the highest ranking possible, a positively thrilling moment for all of us. The collaborations mentioned with brilliant soloists like John Nakamatsu to Cheryl Staples, plus the Klein competition winners, and then the Youth Symphony and the myriad of wonderful Santa Cruz people from Zunzun to Joseph Ribeiro, involved every aspect of Santa Cruz's musical life and made it a delight for me to work for the symphony for all those years and work with Larry. Larry is a gigantic Motown and Diana Ross fan and knows every Motown tune. He always bounced on stage for all the Pops on the Rocks concerts that we had at the Granite Rock Quarry with the likes of the Temptations. Larry's long-term goal was 5 classical music concerts every year, one in Santa Cruz at the Civic and one at the Mellow in Watsonville, a goal achieved this year with larger audiences than ever. Wallace Baine said, and I quote, "Whoever follows Larry at the symphony will have to be a kind of superhero to match Larry's remarkable musical legacy." Please welcome our musical superhero, Maestro Larry Granger.
Thank you very much. I hope you all have tickets for our concert this weekend. Nancy, thank you so much. That's one of the nicest people on the planet. You all know Nancy. This is a wonderful award, and I thank you so much for it this evening. I have to share it with so many people. As you all know, a conductor makes no music by himself. So I want to share this award with our wonderful musicians of the symphony, my personnel manager, Norman Peck, our librarian, Sue Laughlin, concertmaster, Tina Anderson, our stage crew led by Rick Larson, our administration, executive director, Jan Dureco, Ben and Lindsay, our board of directors, past and present, with leadership currently by Owen Brown, our terrific Symphony League, Peggy Minear, who has been my conductor sponsor for so many years, all the great kids in the Santa Cruz County Youth Symphony, who I just visited with on Sunday, and all the people I've had the privilege of collaborating with over these years. I want to give special thanks to Karen Huffman, who was so helpful in helping me develop the youth and family programs that we look at as an annual tradition now here in Santa Cruz. The wonderful Cheryl Anderson and her delicious Cabrillo chorus that I get the dessert of every season to work with at the end of the year. Robert Kelly and Diane Seifer of the beautiful Santa Cruz Ballet Theater, and all the wonderful people we shared the stage with for many of those youth concerts, Zun Zun, Linda Arnold, Joe Ribeiro, the work we've done with White Album Ensemble, all the incredible soloists that have graced us with their talents. Over the years, I've probably been asked one question more often than any other, and that is, how did you become a conductor? I don't know whether they showed the family picture of me as a kid with the little black horn-rimmed glasses. Did they show that? In any case, it's no wonder a kid that looked like that found a career where he never had to face the audience. But you might want to know that from the age of 2 till I was 16, my family moved from New York to Virginia to Southern California. I went to 6 different schools between elementary and high school. So it wasn't really an easy thing for me to make long-term friends. So music became my imaginary friend, from Mozart to Motown. Music was there often when others could not be there for me. As a boy, I listened to Pete Fountain, the jazz clarinetist. He used to perform every Wednesday night on the Lawrence Welk Show. So I thought I could do that. So I took up the clarinet, and 2 years later, I switched to the oboe, and that became my voice through college and on to symphony orchestras and recording studios in Los Angeles. But it was really the audition at the International Institute of Conducting with Herbert Blomstedt, they really sort of changed the direction of my life. And I thought I'd talk to you just a little bit about how that audition works, because some of you might know, or how it worked for him. There were 60 of us from across the country and Europe, and he didn't look at resumes, he just gave everybody 6 minutes in front of the orchestra, sort of like the 6 minutes I have right now. And he looked to see talent and also what work had been done. And by some miracle, I was selected to be in the master class of 12. Do you know what it's like for somebody to tell you that you have talent? It's exhilarating and terrifying. Because the next day, at the workshop, the first working day of the workshop, the 12 of us got up individually and rehearsed the orchestra for about 15 minutes each. And when I left the podium after my stint, I walked up to the maestro and he frowned and said, "You showed me much more music last night." A wake-up call. So, the next 2 weeks I worked diligently, digging deeper, finding more about the music and the music in myself, which allowed me to grow. So these are the important things that I learned from him and have led to the attributes that I've tried to employ as a symphony conductor. To reward not only those who have talent, but for those who prepare and do the work. To be honest with your musicians, because without that knowledge, they cannot grow. Serve the music, not yourself. A conceited musician has no friends. And give back. He gave back to many young conductors, and I've tried to give back to young people and have been rewarded so greatly in really over 4 decades of working with young people in youth orchestras. And I've been so fortunate to work here. You know, there's a story that I heard once about a man who was given the opportunity to visit both heaven and hell. He visits hell, and the scene is this wonderful, huge table of delicious food surrounded by people sitting. But all the utensils have these really long handles, and no matter how hard they try, they can't get the food to their mouths. So they're starving, they're hungry, they're frustrated. So then he goes to visit heaven, and he sees practically the same scene. Beautiful food on a table, lots of people sitting around, utensils with long handles. But here, the people feed each other. And that's what I've found the arts community in Santa Cruz to be like. And trust me, it's not like this everywhere. Where the arts organization share, we collaborate, we learn from each other, we grow from each other, we create a wonderful style of life here where dreams really can come true. I was able to realize my dream here of building a symphony family that would bring people together to perform and hear music and share those experiences to enrich our lives. Music, the imaginary friend of my childhood, has brought me real lifelong friends here in this wonderful place. I will forever treasure them and this special honor that you've bestowed on me tonight. Thank you so much.
21 years. Thank you, Larry, so much. It's been a great ride. That means the job of the musical director and conductor of the Santa Cruz Symphony is now open. I'll do it. I'll do it. You watch. Before we go on, I want to acknowledge another great artist here in this community, the man whose photos you see here. Shmuel Thaler, come up and say hi. There he is. There he is. He's a man with a special eye, really is. Our next awardee is Elizabeth McKenzie. I first became aware of Elizabeth McKenzie with her book of short stories called Stop That Girl. It was a very funny, vibrant collection of stories which had kind of the same character, a young girl who grows up to be a young woman in Santa Cruz. And she's also written a novel, McGregor Tells the World. She is an editor, a teacher. She is the editor of the Chicago Quarterly Review. She teaches at De Anza College, has taught at UCSC. And something to remember about Elizabeth is that she represents for a lot of people something of a mentor. She is a great sounding board, someone who has a good feel for voice in language and writing. And she also is a great model of a writer's life. And here to talk a little bit more about Elizabeth McKenzie is MICAH Perks.
It's my great pleasure to be here with all of you supporters of the arts and to talk about Elizabeth McKenzie. Elizabeth McKenzie, I want to say a little bit about her bio, even though it's already been said, because she really is a wonderful writer. She's the author of the hilarious and sad Stop That Girl, and also McGregor Tells the World, and many short stories. Her latest short story was actually in the Atlantic Monthly. Among her many awards, she has won the NEA Japan U.S. Friendship Commission Fellow. And most recently, she's edited an anthology of contemporary Japanese writing, which will be out shortly. And as just recently said, she's also the co-editor of the Chicago Quarterly Review. And I've got some things that I know that maybe you might not know about Elizabeth, or Lisa, as we call her. When she first came to Santa Cruz, she came to Santa Cruz to be at UCSC, and she was the editor of the literary magazine at UCSC, and she hosted the poet Allen Ginsberg. She also stole the nozzle off Bob Dylan's garden hose as a keepsake. She also makes a killer Cosmo. She might appear shy at first, but she's actually got a great off-kilter sense of humor, and she's even taught comedy writing twice at UCSC. She's also, as also mentioned, an incredibly generous cheerleader for writers all over the world, from student writers to professionals. She's been a great supporter of the Capitola Book Cafe, and she's also worked really hard to raise funds to support the Living Writers series at UCSC. Lisa is just one of those people who make the world wherever she is brighter. And I think we're all incredibly lucky that she chose here to live with us. So without further ado, Steve, here is Elizabeth McKenzie.
Thank you, MICAH. Thank you, Wallace. And thank you to the Cultural Council and all involved who continue to celebrate Gail Rich's legacy. It was here in 2008 in the Rio Theatre that Salman Rushdie appeared in conversation with Rick Kleffel. I was here and someone in the audience asked if he ever experienced failure or the feeling of it. And Rushdie said, when you're a writer working on a novel, every day is a failure. I wrote this down, and to this day, this hangs over my desk. And so you can probably see how for someone who has that hanging over their desk, something like tonight's event is a really nice change of pace. Some of the members of my dedicated and invaluable writing groups are here tonight, and these groups represent a very intense process that we share, and it's been a long-term commitment with them. And there's a line I was going to say, grappling with each other's naked visions and souls, but I'm not going to say that actually. And it's made my writing life possible here, and I thank all of you here, past and present members of my groups, for that. I've been thinking about how I felt when I first came to Santa Cruz and why it felt like the place where I'd have the space to figure out what I was doing with myself all those years ago. Well, in fact, a lot has happened here for me. I've met my husband here. I had my 2 children here. And so it's not surprising that this area comes through a lot in my writing. There's actually a story in the current Saturday Evening Post. I don't even know if anybody knows it's still being published, but about Santa Cruz that I wrote. And, but in order to find something appropriate to express my feelings about my life here, I chose instead a few little tiny segments from my story collection, Stop That Girl, to read. It's the very last story, and it's kind of where the book ends up. A lot has happened, and at the end, the character, is alone with her son in Santa Cruz, and she's been married and separated. And so I just would like to read a tiny bit of it because it's sort of, I think it expresses why I'm here. Last of our tribe. One morning, like every morning, I walked my son to the corner to catch the bus for school, and then I just kept on going. I have to emphasize how uncharacteristic this was. I am not the type you see engaged in solo activities, jogging by or cycling up an incline. My pattern at that time was to struggle out of bed after pushing the snooze alarm 3 or 4 times, and to throw a sweater on over my pajamas, fixing Will eggs and toast and dressing him, though not quite awake when he told me his dreams. After he took off in the school bus, I'd walk quickly home and climb back into bed. I didn't sleep the day away, however. Like a schoolgirl sneaking out for a smoke, I just liked knowing I could get away with those few extra moments unaccounted for in my room. It was a small beach town in Central California called Rio Del Mar, and I liked walking along the shore pretending we were California Indians pushed to the edge of the continent. The rest of our kind had long ago been wiped out. We were the only 2 left. We had to find clever ways to survive. Anthropologists from Berkeley wanted to collect us and study our language, but so far we'd kept them at bay. We knew they wanted to put us in pants that were too short for us, publish books full of our secrets. We knew we didn't want to end up that way. So she keeps walking, and instead of going back for her extra moment in bed, she keeps walking that day because something is bothering her. And she's thinking about how she met her husband there. It was a beautiful day in this fish town, the water deep, blue and restless with white caps, the breeze moving just enough to make everything seem alive. Even the fur on mice shines on days like this. The sparrows enjoy the cool grass on their feet. Gray pelicans gulp air into their salty beaks. We sauntered on the wharf for a few hours, our voices lapping at each other like the small bay waves beneath us. We never let up for a second. We ate fresh shrimp with horseradish in little cups and considered every woody that had made the trip to our wharf. Each stood proud. The beauty of the waxed wood and the effort it had taken to preserve the vehicle in mint condition startled me with the range of human energy. While some people were splitting atoms or untangling DNA, others were shining their woodies. Both important, but what was I doing yet that counted? So she keeps walking, and then still, after I'd walked a few more hours that day, it dawned on me that in many ways I was happier than I ever had been. Really, or maybe as happy as I'd always been deep down. I saw the water twinkling and the sun glinting and the birds resting on sandbars and realized I was enjoying myself so much it was almost shocking. I had passed all the beach houses long ago and was well along on a stretch I had never set foot on before. It was flat and empty for miles ahead with only a few gulls dipping here and there to keep me company. The waves were knee-high at best, the widest part of the bay, making about as much sound as a bowl of soup. There was a breeze smelling of salt and seaweed, like a child's breath on a summer afternoon. At the bus stop that morning, Will had said, "I want to have a zoo arranged alphabetically, and especially a lot of animals that start with U." What starts with U? Walkeries, ungulates, stuff like that? If you wanted to be reincarnated with green bones, you know what you'd have to be? No, what? a xenopus. Neat, I said. You know what's a non-alien, he said. What? There's only one thing that's a non-alien, he said. It's how many live things there are on Earth. It was time to turn around and go home. If our tribe had been driven off the earth, if Will and I were the only ones left, then we'd eventually have to learn the customs of those around us. Of course, we were cooperative, reasonable types. But would there be any reason to rush? So, thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
So Lisa McKenzie was published in The Atlantic this summer, and then in the fall, The Atlantic published Santa Cruz was the fifth. Did you do this, Lisa? While we're on the literary beat here, I wanted to mention a couple of things. My old friend Julia Chiapella is here tonight. She and some others are starting an online literary magazine in March called, I hope I have this right, Frenzy. It's spelled funny, so keep an eye out for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And tonight we had a couple of really interesting announcements today. One of them just about an hour and a half ago. The brand new Poet Laureate of Santa Cruz County has been announced. He is Mr. David Swanger, who's here tonight, so we congratulate David. David read selections from his book of poetry called Wayne's College of Beauty. Who remembers Wayne's College of Beauty? Also this morning, the Academy Award nominations were announced, and if you looked at your Big Master list there under Best Achievement in Costume Design, you would see the name Ariane Phillips, who is a Santa Cruz native and a extremely fine, I mean, she is the woman who dresses Madonna, okay? Big deal, and she's been in a lot of movies as a costumer. She was nominated this morning for an Oscar, and the kicker is she's a Santa Cruz High graduate, and she also came from Wayne's College of Beauty. True story. True story. And weirdly enough, that was my safety school, Wayne's College of Beauty, so all comes full circle. Let's move on. This is Rhan Wilson. Rhan Wilson has done so much in this community as a veteran musician and a collaborator with so many different other musicians. But the thing that he has been sort of obsessed with for the past few years is his show called An Altered Christmas. And we've all been here at the Rio to see it, where Rhan is doing nothing less than trying to recreate Christmas tradition and make it meaningful again for all of us. No more red and green, blue and black, all the songs in a minor key so you can hear them again for the first time. He's also taken kind of the altered idea and made a 420 altered show, a Valentine's altered show. He is a wonderful musician, but he's really an artistic visionary with a really great, sophisticated musical idea. And here to talk more about Rhan and to brag about him is my buddy Rick McKee. Ukulele Dick, come on up here.
If there's one thing you can say about my friend Rhan Wilson, it's that he's altered. And not only his wardrobe, he has helped to alter the music and arts community with his numerous and surprising contributions. Growing up by Branciforte Creek in Santa Cruz, as a child playing among the flora and the fungus, who knows what experiences may have led him to form his first band, Paisley Pudding, the Paisley Pudding, in the 5th grade. Not surprising that his mom and dad, Paula and Don, are both artists. Paula, a painter, sculptor, and flamenco dancer, and Don, a writer and a poet, as well as a visual artist, providing the hip and happening environment for little Ronnie. Perhaps it was the abstract art and beat poets. Maybe it was an overabundance of negative ions, or that banana slug he ate. Whatever the combination of nature and nurture, little Ronnie grew into a force on the music and arts scene in Santa Cruz. I've had the pleasure of being musically involved with Ron throughout the years, starting with a guitar lesson in 1971, where I taught him to play Alice's Restaurant. And he taught me the valuable lesson that teaching was not my bag. I was thrilled when Ron featured my collection of local music, the Santa Cruz Music Archives, in his alternative publication, Mask, Music and Arts in Santa Cruz. That was 1989. And of course, most recently, I've been privileged to be part of the notorious Altered Christmas right here on this stage, some of the most original music, theater, and art Santa Cruz has to offer. His list of musical collaborations seem endless, starting with the unfailing support of his superhero sidekick, Rick Zeke, and local luminaries such as Max, Michael, Bob, Olaf, Patty, Matt, Selena, David, Tammy, Janet, Dan, Richard, Kyle, Ernie, Colleen, Dale, Gary, Barry, Chad, Laurel, Peepa, and Daniel, to name a few, as well as the intergalactic performance artist Thoth. And there was that magical day in Golden Gate Park, where he was asked to join a stunning array of musicians paying tribute at Jerry Garcia's memorial service. Now the word on the street is there may be an altered Hank Williams show coming. Creativity and originality combined with his desire to empower others in saying yes to new and sometimes strange possibilities bring me here tonight to present to you my dear friend and cohort, Rhan Wilson.
Thank you so much. As with most of my shows, I have absolutely nothing prepared. I'm just going to wing it. Before I forget, I want to make sure I thank my mom and my dad. My mom, they're both here, and my partner, Rick Zeke, and all the Altered crew. And when I was told by Wallace that I was going to get this award, I really didn't understand why. It didn't seem right. And he said, well, it's because you've been doing so many things for the community. And I didn't know that's what I was doing. I was doing them for me. I want to be in a band. I want to play music. I've got these visions and songs in my head that I need to get out so that I can make room for new ones. Kind of like cleaning your garage out. I know it's going to get filled with crap again, but I want to make room for the new stuff. So I was thinking about, well, how do I fit in doing something for the community? And Rick McKee mentioned Thoth. And when I met Thoth in San Francisco, I have to say Thoth is the bravest entertainer I've ever encountered. He wears a loincloth, he plays a violin, he sings like Ima Sumac, and he is constantly harassed verbally, and he's been beaten up, and he will not stop what he's doing. He does it, that's what he has to do. And when I played with him on the streets busking, I immediately got used to everybody watching us. So there was no way for me to hide behind a guitar or anything. I was there, and he was there, and everybody stopped and watched us. And I was always amazed how he would keep doing that and would never take no for an answer. And that's just amazing. And I've been influenced by the big professionals, you know, Santana, of course, and Prince, and all of those kind of people. And I think about, they do what they do because that's what they have to do. They can't follow anybody else. There was another person that influenced me, and that was about 30 years ago. I started playing music with a duo. And this singer that I met at the time, she would sing odd noises and bird calls and opera and the most oddest sounds in her performance. And I thought to myself, I've made those sounds before. I had no idea you could do them on stage in front of people as a performance. And I remember very clearly saying, what a wonderful gift that was. And I don't think she even intended it as a gift, but it was permission to be as creative as I wanted to be. So I started thinking about, well, maybe what is my contribution to other people in the community? And maybe it's that I want to give other people that same permission. If I have to wear a funny hat and a fluffy shirt so that you can say, well, if he can do that, then maybe I can do that too. So I want to give everybody permission, not that you need it, but sometimes you need to hear it. It's such a simple thing, but I want everybody to know that they can do anything they want, any way they want, and they don't have to compare themselves to anybody. They just have to do it. I guess if you have to compare yourself, just compare today compared to yesterday. So each day is just a little bit more risky. It's kind of like an adrenaline rush, I tell you. Just keep trying new things. So in that regards, I can maybe understand why I'm getting this award, and I'm very honored by it, and I hope to pass it on, pay it forward. So thank you very much. And I've been asked to do a song, so I would like to bring up Barry Phillips. I knew I was going to do that. Barry Phillips, who's someone I'm very happy to be working with of late. Barry, thank you so much. And I'd also like to bring up that woman who, with her strange sounds and wild singing, influenced me, Pipa Piñon.
It's coming on Christmas, they're cutting down trees, they're putting up reindeer, singing songs of joy and peace. I wish I had a river I could skate away on, but it don't snow here, it stays pretty green. I'm gonna make a lot of money, then I'm gonna quit this crazy scene. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river so long I could teach my feet to fly. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I made my bed He tried hard to help me, you know. He put me at ease. And he loved me so naughty, made me weak in the knees. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. But I'm so hard to handle. I'm selfish and I'm sad. Now I've gonna lost the best baby that I ever had. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river so long I could teach my feet to fly. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I made my baby say goodbye. It's coming on Christmas, they're cutting down trees. They're putting up reindeer, singing songs of joy and peace. I wish I had a river I could skate away on.
And I also wanted to mention that at the Sentinel, we are more and more dedicated to covering the arts, even better than we have. We are converting our entertainment section back into a tabloid section. That will happen in February. And we will cover the arts more and more. I am very pleased to be joining forces with Krista Martin, formerly of the Good Times. You might know Krista. And so she and I are going to tag team together and sort of ride this giant bucking bronco of a arts scene in Santa Cruz that just never stops. And hopefully there won't be any American Idol contestants this year, so we can so I won't be too distracted. James Durbin's right? No. Let's move on, shall we? This is Judy Stabile, everyone. Judy is an amazing and tireless artist. I think she's tried every art under the sun, every visual art, jewelry, stonework, painting, printmaking. She is now very deep into encaustic wax painting, along with her sister Wendy Aitken and Daniela Wolf. The thing about Judy that's so amazing is that she has been a rock-solid sort of pillar of the South County arts scene. She was instrumental as a curator for the Pajaro Valley Gallery in Watsonville, and also for the Sculpture Is show out there at Sierra Azul that we've all seen so many times. She is a dynamo. She is always energetic and always trying something new artistically to push herself. And to introduce Judy and to tell you more about her is her friend and fellow artist and past Gail Rich Award honoree, Miss Carol BOWIE.
And a dynamo she is, all the time. Just a beautiful person. She's been my friend for more than 20 years. And we've had a wonderful time just playing together, discovering this thing called art and creativity. And in those early days, she and I jumped in with both feet, and we just couldn't get enough of any of it. So when I read the list of the materials that she's played with, the kind of art that she's done, I could say the same thing about myself because I was right there with it. Good evening. I'm so happy to be here. I feel so privileged to be introducing Judy. Her energy is incredible. Her laugh, infectious. It alerts you that she is in the building. So I don't know how many of you have had the pleasure of hearing the gleeful sound and knowing she is close by. Uniquely creative concepts in her art making. Creating and curating shows where you are used to expecting the unexpected if she's involved. Community service volunteer, she's usually the first one that steps up to that plate and gives her all each time. When you think, how can she do it? Shouldn't she be kind of worn out, tired by now? But she keeps coming back and she's ready for action. Intelligent, doesn't describe it. It's not enough, it's not a big enough word. Articulate, dedicated, generous, yes! Just a few of the qualities that define my dear friend. Let's see. Pet project. Would it be maybe the Pajaro Valley Art Council, which is Watsonville's premier art gallery? She has worn many different hats with more than 15 years of active participation in that gallery. She is a woman with a vision. She's a visionary. Let's just go ahead and say that. She has the ability to magically manifest what is needed. And she has the ability to magically manifest, and she has what she needs to make that vision real. Curating 15 art exhibits is just one of her accomplishments. Wait, Judy had a light bulb moment, a brilliant idea to create a year-round show merging sculpture with lush plant life, and call it Sculpture Is. Sierra's little nursery in Watsonville became the popular outdoor viewing space in tandem with the Pajaro Gallery because of her energy, because of her tirelessness, because of her, she just has really good ideas, okay? And I would just look at her in amazement sometime and I'd say, where did you get that? And it's so complicated. You know, it's like I couldn't even get my brain around it, small as that is. But Judy she now heads that gallery, becoming its board president. Aren't we happy? Aren't we blessed? And she is, because with Miss Stabile at the helm of that gallery, we can continue to look forward to shows that are superior in scope, vision, and design. Thank you, Judy. Little known facts about Judy. She can dance. Have you ever seen her dance? It's like she does not have a bone in her body. It's just like a noodle, a wet noodle. But she's got rhythm. I can I can recognize that, I think, when I see it. She's served 6 years as a member on the board of the Santa Cruz County Arts Commission. She's co-owner and one of the instructors at Waxworks West. Now that's a tongue twister. I bet, is there anybody in the audience can say that really fast and have it have you know what they're saying. It took me probably 10 times saying it, not too fast to get it. But she's also the co-owner and one of the instructors, I'll say it again, at Wax Works West, an intimate and relaxed space in Corralitos. It's a school that offers creatives the opportunity to explore the process of encaustic art making. She has participated in more than 50 art exhibits, and her body of work includes marble sculpture, painting, printmaking, slump glass, encaustic painting, and much, much more. I can tell you, but we're running out of time here, so I can only give you just a smidgen of what she's done. Her work is in private collections in many parts of the world. And with that, without further ado, I give you this marvelous person who is lovely, multi-talented, and just the best human being that I've met in my life. So, Judy Stabile.
I got nothing else. I think it's all been said. Well, thank you so much for this award. I'm often asked how I became an artist and why I work in my chosen medium, which obviously is really varied from year to year. I became an artist by virtue of a series of unplanned events, curiosity, influential friends, and a passion to create. There was no map, no GPS, and no way to know what a rich life I would live. I spent my childhood with Mom, Dad, brothers Chris, Kelly, sister Wendy in the 50s and 60s, went to college, married Joe, acquired a big, boisterous Italian family, and purchased a home in Campbell in the 70s. And we moved to Watsonville, and I was hired by the County of Santa Cruz in the 1980s. It was at that time that I discovered art. In 1986, I saw an advertisement in the paper for Art School Santa Cruz, and there were classes offered by Angela Grova, and I thought I would enjoy taking a sculpture class. And the only class that they offered was stone sculpture. And when I called and asked about it, I kind of hesitated, and I said, nah, not so much stone. But they encouraged me to come and just try it. And that first night I walked into the classroom, I was wearing my wool business suit, because back then we wore business suits to work. And I had my yellow legal pad, and I was all ready to take notes, and I looked around, and everybody was 10 years younger than I was, and they had their sketchbooks, and they had their portfolios, and they were wearing jeans and torn t-shirts, and it was like, really? I'm gonna learn here? But the minute I picked up a hammer and chisel, I was hooked, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do. So I spent the next 2 years taking classes from Angelo, and during that time I met the lovely Carol, who has become a lifelong friend, and the county allowed me to reduce my work hours so that I could take more classes. And I continued to be tapping on that stone and in this wonderful world that I was creating for myself until the earthquake hit in 1989 and Angelo closed his school. But he opened up Michelangelo Studios on River Street, where I went and rented space and continued to sculpt. I gradually was introduced and became a part of the Santa Cruz arts community. I very slowly built up a body of work. It takes a long time to do a stone sculpture. But I finally had enough pieces to be in open studios. And so I started participating in open studios. I started to travel and take workshops throughout the world. And it was in 1996 that I think my figure started going from normal to pillaresque, because that's when I started to become involved with the Pajaro Valley Arts Council, They invited me to show a few pieces of my work. The next year, I started curating exhibits for PVAC, and I joined the gallery committee, upon which I am still a member. And I found out that I love curating shows as much as I love showing my own work. And I think part of that is because it's given me entree into artist studios, and I've had the opportunity to meet people that I never would have met otherwise. And during a lot of those exhibits, you saw some of the pictures up on the wall, we would host workshops where we'd bring all the artists together and we'd create pieces for the show as a collaboration. And we plastered each other, we photographed each other, we painted, we sculpted, we drew, and together we shared our creativity and our laughter and a little bit of wine. So over the last 15 years with PVAC, I've been mentored by the best and hopefully have served as a mentor to some. And I'm really proud of the fact that we've provided opportunities to local artists exhibiting their work. And I thank both the Cultural Council of Santa Cruz and the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz for supporting my vision through project grants, through program grants, and through professional development. Over the years, I've been encouraged by friends to experiment with all the media that you've heard about, and I pursued all of them with gusto, if not success. Gradually, members of my family started experimenting with different forms of art to the point where they became my teachers. I took an early retirement from Santa Cruz County in 2002 to spend more time with my family and hopefully to spend more time with my art. And it was in 2005 that Wendy talked me into going to Kingston, New York to take an encaustic painting class. And I think I fell in love with art all over again when I started painting with wax. And then in 2009, we started the school, Waxworks West. In each of our lives, we have people who have helped us achieve our dreams and ambitions. For me, different people have played leading roles at different times in my life. If I had an hour, I might be able to mention a few. I have a loving, supportive family, all of whom have patiently and enthusiastically encouraged me to be the best person that I can be. I have business associates who have helped me to think critically and analytically, can't talk, but I can think. I have friends who have influenced my creativity and have helped me to see the world with different eyes. I'm honored to be recognized by this award. However, I would not be here without the love and the support of those who have touched my life. I thank you all for sharing in this moment.
Thank you, Judy. I just love the story she tells about her family. She came here in the 1980s and started doing art. Her sister Wendy then started doing art, her brother Chris, and their mother Betty, even in her late years, she just passed away last year, she was doing art. I mean, it was almost like there's something in the air around here that makes people want to do that kind of thing. Thank you so much, Judy. Next up, this is Steve Hosmer. Yeah. Steve is, of course, the owner and operator of Stokes Signs over in the Sash Mill in Santa Cruz. And one of the big reasons we wanted him for this honor is because when you look around your daily life in Santa Cruz, there are visual cues that tell you where you are. There's a unique visual print that is unique to Santa Cruz, and Steve has contributed to that mightily. He has given us very vivid artworks. He started with the very well-known sticker. You've seen it, of the Dalai Lama that's on people's cars. It says "Stoked" on it. That was kind of Steve's idea. He created this wonderful image using his own daughter as a model. You've seen this one of a girl riding a bicycle holding a surfboard. It just captures Santa Cruz so well. And then, of course, all his wonderful, vivid, colorful posters that sort of illustrate different parts of the Santa Cruz experience. He is truly a shaper of the visual scene here in this county. And here to speak more about Steve is Mr. Carl Roars. Carl?
Gee, all the introducers have been so nice about the people they're introducing. That ends now. So Wallace's description in the paper of what it is that got our boy here in a suit and tie tonight was pretty short. But there just might not be enough room in the Sentinel to cover how many things that Hosmer has had his big fat thumb in over the decades I've known him. Steve was dabbling in stained glass when he took over Stokes Signs more than 25 years ago from Harry Stokes, when the business was just a knockout sign shop for paper banners. Now, don't get me wrong, that is a noble pursuit and one that has all but vanished from our technologically dominated landscape. But the work that has emerged from what was once a tiny cubby hole in the sash mill would shock and tickle the hell out of old Harry if he was around to see it. The shop's name, obviously, came from him, and Steve kept it, but he is not, as I've heard him referred to many times, Steve Stokes. I met him just after he became the shop's proprietor when he was a student in the lettering torment class that I teach at Cabrillo. And we have been great friends ever since. We were even partners for a few minutes, but he expected me to show up every day. So I've seen him grow from a struggling stained glass artist to an accomplished paint-stained smart aleck who is never intimidated by the challenge of a technique he doesn't yet know. Over and over, I've seen him dive into each new procedure to work it, obsess over it, and wrestle it into submission. His fascination with this stuff is mammoth, and his desire for getting it right is backed up by a fierce dedication to hours and hours of effort. I once stumbled into a new way of making marble backgrounds in sign enamels on wood panels. After I showed Steve, he did it repeatedly and added so much to it that whenever I needed to use it after that, I'd have to ask him, how'd you get it to look so good? And, why don't you just do it for me? The next time you're on the upper end of Pacific, check out the amazing glass sign above the front of Lulu Carpenters, which incorporates glue chip glass, the laying of gold leaf by hand, and the much more exotic and magical angel gilding, as well as mirror silvering and the inlay of abalone and gilded watch crystals. That spectacular sign is only one example of the countless unusual methods of our craft that he's taught himself. There is also the embrace of modern technologies that keeps him producing up-to-date signs that use electricity and everything for both local small businesses like Riverside Lighting and big ones like eBay and Netflix, back when people liked them. Remember, this grew from having Harry show him how to letter on paper banners with tempera paint. The same dedication reared its obsessive head when he started into poster design. His study of the early 20th century European poster masters led him to a series that is homage to their great work, as well as evolving into his own signature style. The original of each one is painted like a sign, so it's cool, to me at least, to see the melding of the two disciplines. And if you haven't noticed, every single one is created in celebration of our hometown and its history and surrounding splendors. Now he's turned his attention and love for where we live to photography. If you go to his Facebook page, you can see hundreds of beautiful images of the coast and the Sierras that are really kind of mind-boggling. He starts out before dawn, shoots startlingly different views of familiar places, and then photoshops the colors into near hallucinations of love for our home and nature itself. Send him a friend request. He'll take anybody. Then get ready, they're gorgeous. Speaking of friendliness, another thing about Steve is his instantaneous acceptance of strangers as buddies, whether they want it or not. He will tease you like an old friend right off the bat, a really irritating old friend. Just a warning to help you decide whether or not to approach him in the lobby. So with that, I'm so stoked to introduce my longtime partner in sign crime and annoying old pal, Steve Hosmer.
I need to thank some people first. Wallace Thaler, because I can't pronounce his first name. The Cultural Council, and Carl for delaying his trip to France to humiliate me up here. Is it? It's hot up here. My mom and dad are here, so I gotta be real good. I am the middle child of a family of 7 children. Why anyone would have 7 children, I have no idea. But you gotta be frugal. You have to be able to make a lot out of a little bit. And I know how you did it. My mom is like Jesus with a ham. I'm not kidding. 9 people can eat 3 weeks off 1 ham. Ask Jack, he'll tell you. Ham, big steaks, ham and potatoes, ham. Pretty soon, we'd be looking in the refrigerator. Yeah, still in there. It's still in there. Pretty soon we were just subsisting on the vapors of pork. But, I grew up in a house where things were being made all the time. Food was being made, babies were being made. She made everything. There's more handmade shit in my parents' house. When they go, it's going to be an impossible job, even with 7 kids, to distribute all the. It's amazing. It's amazing. Everything. My dad's going, that's too expensive. We're making it. That's too much. I'm not paying it. I can make it for half that much. But they instilled in me the attitude that I could pretty much do anything I wanted if I had enough ham and perseverance. There's some other people I need to shout out to. I think 3 of my 4 kids are here. Aaron is a civil engineer at Barry Swenson Builder. Thank you, Jesse. Ashley, my oldest daughter, is the executive chef at the Shadowbrook Restaurant in Capitola. And if you haven't been, the brook is back. The food is bomb. She's killing it there, literally. My youngest daughter is going to nursing school at Cal State East Bay. So it'll be nice to have another health professional in the immediate family. And my youngest son, Drew, the baby, Drewby, Ching Pao Wei. Ask me in the lobby what Ching Pao Wei means. It's too long of a story. He is my right-hand man at Stoke Signs. Last but not least, love of my life, Nani. The kids call her the glue. And if she's the glue, I hope I'm the wood. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. People go, dude, you are so lucky. I'm like, I had a kid work for me one time, teenager. And we were in the shop and trying to figure something out, putting our heads together. And, you know, I must have been ancient to him. I was like 40-something. And we couldn't get it. No sparks were flying, and we just couldn't figure it out. And he looked up at me right in the eye, looked me right in the face and said, Steve, you really don't know what the fuck you're doing, do you? And I said, not right this second. But, if you hang in there with me, if together we can figure this thing out. You know why? You know why? Because we got ideas we haven't even thought of yet. Lucky. My favorite luck quote is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And in ending, I got to tell a sign story. Sign business is weird because you're in the public. You're like doing your work while people are watching you. And when you're on location, somebody always has to say something. Somebody always has to say something. You know, I don't know, they got to say something, whatever they want to say, when they want to say it. I'll be painting up on a ladder, and I won't even have to look around. I just know, oh man, someone's gonna say something. Someone's gonna say something. Go ahead, say it. Let's get it over with. So I'm painting, and sure enough, hey, what are you doing? I say, what the fuck does it look like I'm doing? I'm knitting a sweater for a fish. I love Santa Cruz.
Steve Hosmer, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Hosmer performing live this weekend at Rooster T. Feathers Comedy Club. 2 drink minimum. Tip your waitresses, please. Way to go, Steve. This is Jim Greiner, ladies and gentlemen. Jim has been at the very center of the drumming culture here in Santa Cruz for a long time. He has been a drummer for 40 years. He told me this wonderful story about when he left the service and hitchhiked across Africa with a drum on his back, trying to find people to show him the real meaning of drumming from the place it came from. And he has since come to Santa Cruz and developed a very strong, burgeoning business as a drum circle leader and working in corporate and business settings. And it's all about really getting people to communicate better with each other and through the primal experience of rhythm. He is a great artist, and we're happy to have him here tonight. Introducing him and telling you more about him is another great artist and drummer from a long time here in Santa Cruz, one of the original class of the Gail Rich Award winners way back when, Mr. Rick Walker.
Thank you very much.
It's a great honor to be able to introduce this really great artist who's also a really dear friend of mine. And shortly after I was asked to make this presentation, we got the rules for the night, which was basically that we had between 2 and 3 minutes to make a presentation. And I just started laughing because how am I going to do that for Jim Greiner? There's just no way. And then Jim emailed me his current resume, and then I started laughing again because it went on and on and on and on. So, what to say about this man? Many years ago, Jim Greiner and Arthur Hull and myself started with Marion Oliker the first West African dance class in this county, and we called ourselves the Laurel Street Drummers. LSD, yes. The amazing thing about Jim was that whereas when I first started working in that class, I didn't know anything about West African music except that I was beginning to listen to it and love it. Jim was the first person who'd actually been to Africa and studied there, and that was amazing. He actually knew what he was doing. Arthur and I didn't have a clue. So it was great. We all learned together. That scene became gigantic, and as you all well know, Santa Cruz has become a center for ethnic arts all over the country, and we're well known all over the world actually, because so many artists have come here. And it was really that stew that got it all going. And Jim was one of the huge members in that stew. Anyway, so I have 2 to 3 minutes to talk about Jim before I introduce him. Except then they told me that I was the last person to present. So I can just talk on and on and on and on. Yeah, so, all right. I'm going to read from his resume verbatim. Anyway, I've always known Jim, and Jim has been involved really early on in the drumming circle scene, using drumming as a way of empowering people. He's traveled all over the world. I think he's taught 2,000 interactive drum programs in his career. And he's always had this really selfless desire to reach out to the world and to bring people in. He's one of the most inclusive people I've ever met. And I have to say that as a human being, he's always been a person whose compassion and just his niceness and his inclusivity has always been something that I've held very high in my life. He's someone I've always wanted to be like. He's just got the warmest smile in the world, and that counts for a lot out in the arts and the musical world. He's an endorser, clinician with lots of big companies. Particularly, he's the head artist for the Latin Percussion, Recreation, and Community Program. He is a 7-time Reader's Poll winner in Drum Magazine. He's been featured on PBS, on NPR, BBC, and the Discovery Channel. He's an author, he's a teacher, and an award-winning Rhythm Power DVD is something that he authored and has for the world. He's uniquely a Santa Cruz artist, but one of the beauties of this community is that so many artists in this town reach out to the rest of the world. And I think that we're incredibly blessed to have someone of the caliber of Jim Greiner have lived in this county and done his work. Will you welcome, please, Jim Greiner.
Thank you, Rick. It's always an honor to share a stage with Rick and to share the stage with all the Gail Rich Award recipients tonight. Thanks to everybody who put this all together. There's too many people to name, although I would be remiss as a musician if I did not give special thanks to our sound people, lighting people, and stage crew. Big hand for them, please. Thank you especially to my wife, Evelyn. for loving me, for sharing this journey with me, for your own inspiration and power and purpose and your strength. I love you. I love you like crazy, Evelyn. Yeah. A story that came to me recently, I was trying to think of what to say tonight, or how to keep it brief, that is, was when Evelyn and I first met. We met because I sold her a set of conga drums. And the first time Evelyn came over to my house, she brought a book for me to read. She put it on top of one of my drums. So I said, well, I hope you don't take this wrong, but please don't ever put anything on my drums. They're not tables. So she said, oh, I'm sorry, and she put it on a table. Several years later, I overheard her telling that story to one of her friends, and she said, well, there's two things I learned about Jim at that time. One was he'll always tell me what he's thinking. Number two, this guy is serious about drumming. So rhythm, as Rick said, is everywhere. Yes, we all do have rhythm. We have a pulse, we have a heart rate, we have breathing patterns, we have the rhythm and powers of our thoughts and actions. We have the ability to empower ourselves rhythmically every single moment of our lives. One of the passions I've had since a child was for understanding the way we human beings create thriving communities. It's why I wanted to go to Africa. It's why I wanted to travel around the world. I wanted to go to the roots of communities, to go to communities where people were thriving because they had to survive. And I felt like in those communities, people were down to the important elements, the essential elements of having a community that thrived. Of course, creating positive rhythms is a great way for communities to thrive. And I've broken those down in my work to what I call the 3 C's of community building. They are communicating, cooperating, and celebrating. Communicating consists of listening to each other with open ears, open minds, and open hearts, and also developing the skills and the willingness to express ourselves clearly, articulately, with positive intention, with the intention of creating a free flow of ideas. The second C is cooperating, willingly engaging together with other people to create solutions to shared challenges, not holding back, waiting to see if it's going to be okay, and then maybe jumping on board, but jumping in full speed, 100%, completely without hesitation, to making things happen together, to making solutions to our shared challenges. The final C is celebrating. Life is a blessing. Life is indeed a blessing. In spite of all the challenges we face, life is a blessing. And the single most profound way that we human beings have ever created to acknowledge the blessings of life is to regularly gather together with other people and celebrate those blessings. So whether it's an evening meal with your family, the occasional barbecue with your neighbors, or a gathering such as this tonight where we are celebrating our Santa Cruz community, this is what creates community. This is what creates a thriving community. Communicating, cooperating, and celebrating. Now, as individuals, as I mentioned, we have the ability to create powerful and positive and productive life rhythms, starting with our inner rhythms, our pulses. If we create a calm inner pulse, we are able to effectively deal with the high stress, high speed, challenging life that we live. This was brought home to me when I first returned from Africa. I was privileged to be invited to drum with an elder of the Chumash people, Native American people in Southern California. And this elder was named Semohaute. Everybody just called him grandfather. So he invited me to drum with his group of drummers. And they were all young guys like me, early, mid-20s. We gathered around this large ceremonial drum one evening just before sunset. The drum was about 6 feet in diameter. Big, beautiful mother drum. We each had a beater. Grandfather led us in the rhythm. We followed grandfather in the rhythm, sang the songs. We started when the sun was about a hand's breadth above the horizon. When we stopped, the sun was long gone, the night had washed over the sky, and the moon was high in the sky. It could have been at least 4 or 5 hours or longer. Nobody knew. As we drummed, I had the feeling that grandfather's young drummers wanted to push the tempo of the groove just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And that grandfather had his hands on the reins of a group of wild mustangs, and every once in a while, he would give a gentle tug. "Nah, boys, nah, not there. This is where you want to be." But we drummed and drummed and drummed, and then on an unspoken cue from grandfather, we all stopped, just like that. We sat there for a few minutes in silent contemplation of what we just did, the experience we had, we savored. And then all grandfather's drummers got up, said goodbye, left, went back to their camp. I sat there with grandfather just for a few minutes, and then I said to him, "Grandfather, may I ask you a question?" And he looked at me. He said, "Well, of course, young man." I said, "What has changed about the drumming between the time you were a young man and today?" And he looked at me deeply into my eyes. He had these dark, piercing brown eyes, a broad, sun-weathered face, creviced with lifelines and laugh lines, framed by these 2 thick gray braids. And he said to me, "All my young drummers these days want to play the traditional songs much too fast." And he looked down, and I thought for a moment I was about to receive this thirst-quenching drink of ancient wisdom that he would draw from this well of ancient remembrance. Deep, profound learning I was about to get. He looked up at me, leaned towards me. I leaned towards grandfather, looked me deeply into the eyes, and he said, "It's that damn rock and roll." And of course, that was the wisdom. Rock and roll was the soundtrack of our lives. It reflected the tempo of our lives. And our lives today are faster, by far, than the lives of any other human beings throughout our long and rich history. So if we can calm our inner pulse with drumming, with martial arts, with athletics, with meditation, with painting, with sculpting, with playing any musical instrument, with dance, with any creative endeavor, there are many, many ways to calm ourselves, focus ourselves, ground ourselves, center ourselves, and empower ourselves. Many, many ways. Drumming is by far the best way, but there are many great ways. If we can do all that, then we will be capable of living powerful lives in this fast-paced world. We don't have to match our inner tempo with the outer tempo of our world. That will lead only to dis-ease and distress and anxiety. So whether it's a few calming breaths in the morning, a great wake-up ritual, and a few calming breaths in the evening, or regularly thinking about something that will calm, focus, and empower us and give us a spiritual uplift, any way that we can do that, we can create positive personal rhythms and then contribute those positive personal rhythms to the community, we will have a powerful, thriving community. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you all for supporting the arts, for being a participant in the arts. And we are participants in the creative process. It's not just us and them. We are creating together. We are participating together. I am blessed as a musician to be in the business of community service. As a percussionist, I'm here to serve the groove in 2 ways, both to be in service to the groove and to serve up the groove, to other musicians, to dancers, to everybody who can hear and feel the music, to empower people with a foundation upon which they can ride as they power through life. So in the business of community service, I thank you again for your support, your creativity, and your participation. But wait, there's more. In a few moments, you will see exactly what I mean by participation. For now, thank you very much. We bring the house lights up just a little bit, please. A little bit more. Beautiful. Now look around. Look around at yourselves. Each other. These are your neighbors. These are your friends. These are your family. This is Santa Cruz. So, in the spirit of participation, I would like you all to give yourselves a big round of applause for being here tonight. I mean big. Big. Huge. Yeah. Woo! Let me hear you. Yeah. Don't overdo it. No. Yes, more. See where I'm going? There you go. Louder. Don't hold back. Engage completely. You got the idea. Keep that going. Beautiful. Keep that going. Whoo! 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 Say that. Ha! Keep that going. Keep that going. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Keep it going. Oh, yeah. 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 Beautiful. Keep it going. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh. Ha. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Give yourselves a big hand. Because you were willing to communicate, cooperate, and celebrate, you had this groove going that was dare I say it, unbeatable. No. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Shmuel.
Thank you all so much. That's our show for this evening. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank the Cultural Council Associate Volunteers for putting this show together. They worked so hard. I want to thank all our honorees and all our presenters. And this is the face of our artistic community. Savor it and nurture it, and it'll be here always. Thank you so much. Good night. See you next time.